Okay, so we're going to start with the last words ever written in a lost sailor's logbook. And they are absolutely bone-chilling.
It is finished. It is the mercy. Imagine finding those words, scribbled down by a man named Donald Crowhurst, on a boat just drifting, totally empty, in the middle of the vast Atlantic Ocean. To even begin to understand what drove him to that point, you have to go back to the beginning of his journey.
So, it all kicks off with the 1968 Golden Globe race. And you have to understand, this was a huge deal. The first ever attempt to sail solo, nonstop, around the entire planet. Whoever did it first would be a legend. And into this high-stakes world steps Donald Crowhurst. Now, he's basically a weekend sailor, an amateur, and his electronics business is failing. He's not really in it for the love of the sea. He's in it for the fame he thinks will save his company. He is totally in over his head. Hang on. A weekend sailor with a failing business decides to enter the world's toughest race? I mean, that sounds like a recipe for absolute disaster. But I don't know, you almost have to admire the guts, or maybe the sheer desperation. And that's exactly what everyone thought. He became this massive media sensation. But that ambition, that need to go big or go home, is precisely what led him down this just terrifying path.
Almost right away after setting sail in October, his boat, which was nowhere near ready for this kind of trip, starts falling apart. I mean, it's leaking, the electronics are shot, he knows he can't finish. But turning back, that would mean financial ruin and just total public humiliation, so he makes this fateful choice. He starts faking his coordinates. He's reporting that he's making incredible progress, when in reality, he's just kind of drifting around in the South Atlantic. At one point, he reports this unbelievable single-day distance of 243 miles, and the media just goes wild. He's a hero back home. The lie just spirals, getting bigger and bigger, until June of '69 when his main competitor's boat actually sinks. And all of a sudden, Donald Crowhurst, the guy faking the entire race, is on track to win. The pressure must have been unbearable. And a month later, his boat was found empty. Wait, he faked the entire race, the whole thing? And when he was about to get caught, he just jumps off the boat? That's insane. Why not just admit defeat? Yeah, it's embarrassing, but it's not a death sentence. Because to him, the shame was worse than the alternative. See, he had this deal with his sponsor. If he didn't finish, he had to pay for everything, which would have completely bankrupted him. But it was more than that. He'd built himself up as this hero. The thought of facing everyone as a fraud was, in his mind, a fate worse than death.
It's such a tragic story, but this isn't just about him. The book actually links this to another sailor in the exact same race who made the complete opposite choice.
Okay, so meet Bernard Moitessier. Now, unlike Crowhurst, he was a veteran, a true expert sailor, and he was genuinely winning the race. He was rounding the final corner, literally heading back to England to claim victory, fame, the whole shebang. And then he does something nobody could possibly comprehend. He turns his boat around and sends a message with a slingshot to a passing ship. It said, "I am continuing nonstop towards the Pacific Islands, perhaps to save my soul." He just quit. He quit? While he was winning? What does that even mean, to save my soul? He was about to be a global icon, get rich, have sponsorships for life, and he just sails off to Tahiti? That makes zero sense to me. Well, it makes perfect sense when you understand what was driving him versus what was driving Crowhurst. And that really is the core idea we're talking about here.
It really comes down to two totally different scorecards for life. Crowhurst lived and died by what the book calls the outer scorecard. His entire self-worth was defined by what the world thought of him, the applause, the headlines, the fame. Moitessier, on the other hand, was living by an inner scorecard. He was playing a completely different game, one where the only judge that mattered was himself.
The outer scorecard is that little voice in your head that's always asking, but what will they think? It measures your success in things that other people can see and applaud. You know, your job title, your car, your house. And look, there's nothing wrong with wanting to succeed, but for Crowhurst, this became the only thing that mattered. The thought of that external validation turning to scorn was literally unbearable. He was playing for the crowd, and he couldn't stand the thought of the crowd booing. The inner scorecard is the exact opposite. It's your own internal measure of satisfaction. It doesn't care about applause. Moitessier realized that winning the race, getting the fame, all that stuff, that was all part of the outer scorecard. He called it a snake pit. His inner scorecard told him that real success was peace, freedom, and the simple joy of being at sea. So he chose his own definition of victory, even if the rest of the world thought he was nuts.
You know, Warren Buffett frames this perfectly. He asks this amazing question. Would you rather be the world's greatest investor, but have everyone think you're the worst? Or would you rather be the world's worst investor, but have everyone think you're the best? It really forces you to decide which scorecard actually matters to you.
Wow, that's a tough one. I mean, intellectually, I know the right answer is to be the best. But if I'm being really honest with myself, there's a big part of me that would be tempted by the other option, you know? The applause, the respect, that's a powerful drug. It's kind of hard to admit that.
Exactly. And that temptation is everywhere in our modern world, and it's amplified 1,000 times over from what Crowhurst ever had to deal with.
Right. Crowhurst was obsessed with newspaper headlines. Today, the outer scorecard is basically our social media feed. It's this constant, flashing scoreboard of likes and follower counts and shares.
Oh, for sure. It's the guy you knew in college posting a screenshot of his crypto portfolio. It's the endless parade of thrilled to announce on LinkedIn. It's watching someone unbox a watch that costs more than my car. It just creates this constant low-grade anxiety that you're falling behind. Career burnout is just the 21st century version of Crowhurst's leaky boat, right? You're pushing yourself to the breaking point for a game you don't even enjoy, all for that external validation.
Precisely. You end up chasing a version of success that's defined by complete strangers on the internet, not by yourself. Okay, I get it. This is hitting a little too close to home. Chasing likes is bad, finding my inner peace is good. But how do I actually do that? How do I use this tomorrow when I'm back in the real world and my feed is still jammed with people crushing the outer scorecard game?
So the book gives some really practical ways to start shifting your focus inward. First, write your reverse eulogy. Seriously. Think about what you'd want people to say about you at the end of your life. That you were kind, a good friend, a loving parent. Nobody's eulogy ever mentions their car's horsepower or their follower count. Then work backwards from there. Second, think about the people you genuinely admire in your own life. Do you admire them for their stuff or for their character, their wisdom, their humor? The answer is pretty much always the latter. And finally, when you're about to buy something, ask yourself one simple question. Am I buying this for utility because it will genuinely make my life better? Or am I buying it for status, to project an image to other people? Just being conscious of that choice can be incredibly powerful.
Ultimately, it all just boils down to this one question. Because when you know the answer to that, you know which scorecard you're playing for. And you start to realize the only game that's really worth winning is your own.